Hey guys, this is Cade Lamb with Fear Not Do Right, and this is the Fear Not Do Right podcast. Today I am here with the beautiful Brandie Barclay. How's it going, Brandie?
It's going great. I can't wait for this conversation.
I know.
It's going to be a good one. I can tell already.
Well, based on the conversations that I've had, that I've kind of heard secondhand between you and my mom.
Yeah. I love your mom. She's awesome.
She is. She's great.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, like a lot of guys, they brag about their mom's cooking. My mom can actually cook. Not that she does anymore because she's kind of an empty nester.
Yeah.
And also on the road 24/7.
She is on the road a lot. Yeah.
You're on the road quite a bit too, though.
Yeah, not as much as your mom, though. I mean, every time I talk to her, she's somewhere else. But yeah, I've actually in the last 2 days, I've been on the road a lot, and it's not stopping. It's kind of picking up right now. So it's all good, though. It's all good stuff.
Yeah. And now you're doing mostly, like, when you're on the road, what are you doing? Like, mostly just speaking, or you're coaching?
Well, I'm speaking, and actually yesterday and tomorrow I am representing Carrie Lake. So she can't be in two places at once. So I'm actually taking the mic for her.
Very nice.
Yeah. Kind of crazy town.
Very nice.
I can't do it as well and be like as, bold as Carrie, but I'm trying.
She gets it done.
She's awesome. She's fire, pure fire. Yeah.
Well, I think, one thing that people often overlook, and this can be, you can call this a plug for Carrie Lake or not, I don't know. Carrie, you do with this soundbite what you want, but what I really, and I'm trying to talk to her about this next week. Her news background is greatly overlooked in her knowledge and insight on what's actually going on with how they package up the news and then like deliver it to people through the Associated Press and Reuters and stuff.
No, it's like God gave her the perfect training ground for her divine calling. And like you said, a lot of people diminish her and say, well, she hasn't been a CEO. She hasn't done this. She hasn't done that. She's been covering this state that she's fighting for 27 years, knowing the ins and outs of all the things. I don't know if there's anyone more qualified to know what's been going on.
And if you want to talk a true believer, to walk away wasn't she the highest paid female news anchor in the country? I
did not know that.
I think she was.
That's like new news to me.
She was prominent. I mean, she did it for like 29 years.
She's so lovable, likable, smooth, loves the people, loves the state. And the most beautiful part about Carrie is I know her behind the scenes, and she's even better.
Oh yeah.
So I love rocking it out for her, like in any way. So that's what I'm doing right now, especially in this crunch time, going into primaries, and then I have my own ministry, so that takes a lot of time. And then I just finished a Patriot 960 radio show for the last year. So it's been a lot of stuff, a lot of fun.
Yeah. So how did you get into the whole ministry side of things?
Oh man, God just told me to. So I actually was in the beauty business, skincare for 20 years. And 5 years ago, 20 years ago, I was at a really big conference, and I was watching the prominent female preacher, Joyce Meyer, actually. And the Lord just prompted on my heart, like, you're going to do that someday. And those are the things you don't tell people because you look like a nut job. And so I did tell two people, my husband and my mom, the two people that can't break up with me, I always say. And, fast forward, I raise my kids, go to work, do all the things. And then about 5 years ago, I was at another event. It was a networking event. And I was seeing 300 women sitting on the edge of their seats, listening to these, at the time before COVID, before this government crazy, it was kind of the motivational world was a really big thing. And it was like boss babe culture, right? And I'm listening, and I'm realizing that women were looking for more. They're looking for power for their soul. They're looking for life strategy, deep, victorious life strategy, not just how to be a boss babe on Instagram. And the Lord almost audibly spoke to me like, it's time to use your voice. It's time to get ready. And he gave me a vision of 15 years prior of the vision of speaking. And it was like, it's time for bigger things. And I realized, just like we were talking about Carrie just now, that God was using the gift that she had in the news to prepare her and get her ready for her her big purpose. And she didn't see that coming, and neither did I. I didn't realize that spending hour after hour with women in a treatment room where they felt very vulnerable and exposed, that I was ministering to them in that space, and God was preparing me for an actual ministry. So when I left, I went home and didn't really know what I was doing. I was like, okay, Lord, I'm going to read my Bible more. I know I need to do that, And then in COVID, at that point, I'd become a certified life coach because I thought, okay, I need to have something to show people that I'm not just doing skincare anymore. Like, how do you go from doing skincare to being a preacher? It doesn't transition well in the real world,
Yeah.
And my clients were being isolated and alone at home, homeschooling, and suffering. And everything in me, the Lord just prompted me, they don't need to be separated. Bring them into your home. Have happy hour for them. They need their friends. They need their girlfriends. They need tacos and drinks. And that's what we did. And he goes, but include me and encourage them and give them a word. And so that's what we started doing. It started with 3 women at a park. We started outside in a park. 3 women showed up. I was expecting masses. And the Lord said, I want to make sure you're going to do this if it's 1 woman. And it's grown now to almost 400 women.
Wow.
So it's pretty awesome. So I still life coach, and now we meet every 6 weeks, and we become Christian conservative because in this political climate, there's a lot going on there that I'm not going to ignore like a lot of churches are, and it's pissing me off. I feel like the reason why God has called us, like you talk about, to action is we're not supposed to just sit in pews. Jesus didn't just go sit in pew and walk out and wait till the next week. We're called to be like Christ. We're called to go in, learn, be fed, and go feed. And so that's what we're doing in this awesome place. It's called Power Soul.
Power Soul. Mm-hmm. Now, do you guys get called a feminist often?
Oh my gosh, no.
No?
No. I mean, I've had some pushback, I guess, when it comes to should women be preaching? Should women be doing this? I feel like I didn't call myself. I know that I have enough wisdom and discernment. I've studied the Bible for years and years to know when it's either my voice, the enemy's voice, or God's. It was very clear that it was God. Because I had a 6-figure income. I was doing pretty good. For me to walk out and have no money, it was God.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so, and I've had a little pushback there, and I've had a little pushback getting political in a Christian space. But all of that, I asked the Father, and he showed me in this world we're in, if they're not for you, they're against you. And we've got to have more Christian voices in this public arena right now. We've got to. So to be intimidated by the enemy to shut up now, it's too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what sort of principles would you say are separating you? Because, I mean, what you're doing is like, okay, this is female empowerment. You're taking the women that are out there that need just that camaraderie, that uplift, and showing them how you can be more, do more, feel more, and all that. Isn't that feminism?
Oh my gosh, I love
I would
that
say that in the most sarcastic tone.
That's a really, you're exactly right. It is real women empowerment. It's real. And we know, as a believer, the enemy counterfeits everything real. And he convinces women that don't know God that real women empowerment looks like resistance against everything masculine, male, and really godly. It's just deception. But real women empowerment is happening here. And I say it's like putting steel in the spine of the believing woman who's been told her whole life to be quiet and be nice and not make a big deal and just go to church and go to work and be really bored and think that that's what God called her to. And I just don't believe that's true.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Where are you finding most of these women that you're talking with?
Where am I finding them? Where am I finding these girls?
Where are they finding you from?
Yeah, so just word of mouth, which is great. Again, I started with 3 of my best girlfriends or 4 of my best girlfriends. that were kind of like, what's Brandie doing now? Let's go check it out. And, you know, it's just, I have to say, it must be God, because women, first meeting was 15, and then the next time it doubled, and the next time it doubled, and the next time it tripled. So I believe something beautiful is happening, because women are telling their friends, like, you can't miss this. This is not your normal Bible study. This is not, it's real, it's true, it's a little edgy, and because life is edgy. I don't pretend that it's not. I don't pretend that I'm have it all together. And it's like, really, come as you are, and let's bring our weakness to God, ask him to fill us with his strength, you know, get stronger to walk out of here and do what we're called to do and be hands and feet, and receive wisdom about what, like you said, real women's empowerment is: championing our husbands, supporting them to go out into this crazy world, praying over our kids at night instead of staring at our phones wanting to change the world that we can't change, having dinners around the table again, territory God gave us to have, going to their schools, going to our church and saying, not here, you're not going to ignore truth here, and just saying, God has given us all something in our hands. We're not called to use something that's not in our own hands. And I used my own home to open my own home and cause a movement. He didn't tell me to do anything else. And it's gotten really exciting. It's been quite an adventure, and I think it's just getting started.
Just getting started.
It's kind of a roller coaster right now. Yeah, I mean, he's given me a voice on radio. I never saw that happening. Now I'm helping Carrie Lake, and I never saw that happening. I'm her prayer warrior and her team, and it's just massive. And I believe that's all because when we take that key of obedience and we obey, doors open. It's really not about my great idea. It's about when he gave me something, I obeyed, and I didn't even know what it was. It's like walking in the dark. Mm-hmm. And that's, I believe, what God calls us is to walk on the hem of his garment, not knowing all the things. We're not.
I think it's funny how people, I often confuse this as a kid, because it's just kind of what is reinforced by your parents, like, oh, you need to be obedient. And it's like obedience as in like, follow the rules. Don't hit your sister, and blame it on the dog, because you're that obviously is not. And rather than just that being the metric and standard of, okay, here's what obedience looks like. It's more than that. It's like following the direction being given to you. Mm-hmm. And I think I was listening to your radio show yesterday, just, kind of doing some research. Oh, no,
I wonder which one it was.
Doing some research. I couldn't tell you. Mm-hmm. I think I just went on YouTube, and I was like, okay, I need to see what's going on here. And you're kind of saying the same thing. Like, you had this vision of where you needed to go, and you were like, all right, like, I guess that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and when you say obedience, like parental obedience, I actually believe a lot of that maybe because that is a mindset. There's a rebellion and resistance to that, like a stifling feeling. Mm-hmm. And, and I don't think this just happens. I don't think all of a sudden you wake up one day and go, I'm just going to follow God with my whole heart, and it's just going to be so. No, I think there's a love story behind that. There's absolutely a love story behind that, where I felt I had some experiences with God where I felt so overwhelmingly accepted and loved by him that it caused me to really want to love him back well. It wasn't, I kind of tell people that I'm coaching that don't know God or don't understand, you don't know someone on a first date. You don't know someone on a blind date. But as you've experienced love from them and safety and trust and feel valued and you have experiences with them, that relationship grows. It's the same thing with God. And I've had so many amazing, beautiful, thank God. I mean, honestly, I feel like it's such a privilege to have those things with him. that now I'm able to speak into places where people don't have that. And really my prayer when they come into Power Soul is they have a Jesus experience, not a Brandie experience. I want to create space for God to touch them and they feel moved by him. And it's in that move where they crave him. And then there's a craving and then there's a following. And I think about, you're old enough to probably dated someone enough that maybe you'd want to drive all night to see them. Maybe not, I don't know. But there's a love that happens when like you have a falling in love and there's like something that's like just not going to get in the way of that. And I think that that's what I believe that's what God wants from us, is not just obedience out of servitude and obligation. I wouldn't want someone to do things for me out of that. I think he ultimately is like, read my love story, read the Bible that is the love story that I've written to you that will be alive to just you when you open it, and fall in love with me back. And out of that comes a desire for obedience. I think obedience is, I know there's something so good on the other side now, I'm not willing to miss out on that.
So when did you start kind of moving from, because when did you start your ministry?
5 years ago.
5 years ago. Now, immediately were you kind of like, 5 years ago, was Trump in office in 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Dang, man.
I know, it was so awesome.
Going by fast.
I had no idea what was coming for us. I had no idea about COVID coming, no idea about Trump. None of this was happening. So it was felt very premature, like, oh, I'm going to go start this great ministry and it's going to be really exciting. No, I had no idea, you know.
So when did it start kind of, when did you start to get more like politically active with it?
About 2 years ago. What was that, election season?
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was 2020 was.
I know, it's a blur. We're all blocking it out right now. But yeah, it was 2 years ago, and election season. And I don't even know how it all started. It just, I don't know. I honestly don't even know. But I do remember a few Democrats coming and never coming back. No, I mean, they came and they're like, oh, you're getting political. And you probably, they were like pushing back. Like, is that loving? Is that? And again, I felt like, yeah, real love isn't always saying what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And truth is, my opinion ultimately doesn't really matter. If it's truth that we're looking at and truth that we're measuring life from, and there's a solid rock of truth under us, you always go back to that and check yourself in the mirror. And that's what I always say to them. And some people don't like to look at truth. They want what feels good to them, and they want what's easy for them.
Well, it's bizarre how it, and people will always tell you all the time, this isn't a right versus left. It's a good versus evil. So, I mean, let's say, those individuals were to show up to one of your events and they are feeling politically challenged, whereas it's not a political event. That's, it really shows like, hey, this isn't just like well, I view this way and you view this way. Like, hey, I think we should be taxed this much. You think we should be taxed this much. It's more of you believe in values that I don't, and those are, those are going to be righteous values. They're feeling threatened by righteous values. That's crazy. That's like when I talked about this with Jared Schmeck. My dad always says, like when he was a kid growing up, how in the scriptures it talks about what is right will be wrong, and what is wrong will be right, and
we're good, seeing it, right?
Good is evil. Good will be called evil. Evil will be called good. And he's like, no way, dude. That's never gonna happen. That's crazy. It's like,
look around us. I know.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's happening on a crazy level, which is really interesting, and I think privilege for us to be here at such a time as this, to be able to still speak truth even though it's not popular.
Yeah. Well, and it was crazy too. Like when I was a kid, they'd always say like the youth in these days are going to be the strongest youth. They have to be the most valiant youth. I'm like, I don't know, dude. Things are pretty freaking good, man. Like, I don't see how things could get crazier. And then, geez, am I eating my words now? And the attack is on such a elemental level, right? Where it's not even like what's good will be called evil. It's like what is will be called isn't.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like, hey, they're like, hey, and it's always so contradictory too. They're like, be who you want to be. Be who you feel you should be. Well, guess what? I like having facial hair and shooting my bow every day. And
but don't be that, Cade. That's way too manly.
Cast iron skillet and having it just be perfect every time. I like doing those toxic, masculine things.
Oh my gosh.
And then they're like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. We hate you for
Don't
that.
be yourself unless you're going to be like us.
Yeah.
And promote us and champion us and throw parades for us and change everything for us and make stories about us and make policy about us. Everything is about them. And selfishness truly is the opposite of love and of God. Everything about the Lord was sacrificial love. That is the opposite of sacrifice, is selfishness.
Yeah. Well, I kind of saw this on my mission when I served a mission for my church, and all of those problems, and it's so crazy because you read about it all through the Bible. Every single problem everybody has ever had always comes down to being prideful.
So true.
Every single one. And you're like, there's 5 or 6 other problems that people could have there too. But when you think about it,
it's like the root of sin.
And I'm grateful that I've had opportunities to check my ego and kind of get licked,
Yeah.
But it really does every single time come down to you just think that you know better and you're going to make the wrong decision because you think you know better.
Yeah.
And whether that's from someone who's just more knowledgeable and experienced than you, a parent, a mentor, a coach, anybody. You see it all the time in sports. It's like, hey, the coach said we should run a play to the left, and I'm going to run a play to the right, and then you get smoked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it comes to what they're doing right now, with, like you said, going after the most basic truth. I mean, it's basic. Okay, you're born with anatomy. It's pretty basic, right? But one of the things that kind of stood out to me was the very first thing you ask a woman if she's pregnant is, do you know if it's a boy or a girl? The very first item of identity is our sex. Mm-hmm. And I think about, again, we don't war against flesh and blood. We war against evil, demonic, principality, next level spiritual stuff. It's like, how can he take the very first thing that kind of made you who you are away? And also, I find that the world doesn't want the name of Jesus in your mouth. That name offends. So it's like, how do I take power out of you by creating chaos in how you see yourself and how people see you, and take power out of your mouth by you're not allowed, or we're going to condemn you if you say Jesus or truth. So it's really kind of like you said, it's this root. Like, how do we go at the root of your identity? Because if you know your identity in Christ, if you know who you are as a son of daughter of God, you become a lot more hard to deal with and a lot more unshakable, and you have a knowing that only comes from that. And so the enemy, I always say, doesn't fight fair. He comes after you when you don't even know you're fighting him, when you're a kid. And he's doing that to children now on a whole nother level, destroying the beauty of God's design. And we're not allowed to talk about that.
Well, we are allowed to talk about it if we talk about it in the way that they want it talked about.
Yeah, that's controlling, right?
If we say, oh my gosh, Caitlyn Jenner is a strong and powerful woman. First of all, she got more testosterone in her body than probably most of the dudes walking around these days. Most guys in their 20s have lower T levels than Caitlyn Jenner does presently.
Probably right.
Via the world's manliest man. And what year was that? 1980 something?
I don't know.
He was the world's manliest man. Crazy.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy.
And
if he died, and I heard this, if he died, I heard this actually from a transgender who was sad that they had made the transition, because they don't talk about how hard it is, how many operations they have, how hard it is on their body, how they lose all sex drive, how they have to and then they start taking hormones, and they don't talk about all that. But he said, if I died and archaeologists dug my body up 200 years from now, they would say they found a woman when it was a man. The truth is the truth is the truth.
Yeah. I actually saw a Twitter thread like a week ago, and it was a detransitioned individual. I don't remember which way they went.
Because it gets very confusing. What do you mean? What? So they transition back?
They were transitioning back. They're like, this was a mistake. This was a problem.
Wow.
And they were going through. They were like, this is a Twitter thread, which surprisingly, Twitter is one of the most reliable sources for information now. Yikes.
No, right? Yeah. I just got shut off. I just had a podcast on YouTube that got taken down. So, so reliable, all these places. Yeah.
Very nice. Mm-hmm. Congratulations.
Thank you. I know.
But yeah, this individual was going through the problems they were having, retransitioning whatever they were back to whatever. And they can't use the bathroom ever properly. They bleed every time, like all over the place.
Oh my gosh.
Like it's just
horrible.
They smell like piss everywhere 24/7 because like it just does not function down there at all. Like it's all jacked up. Oh no, it was a male transition, female transition back. And I mean that full transitioned.
Horrible.
So there was a nub, like just a nub that he's like, dude, like it's just,
and you know what and
because they can't get rid of it.
Are they going like into this educated? I mean, I think about these young children that their parents are putting them on hormones. That is definitely child abuse. This is horrible.
No, feeding your child steak and eggs is child abuse. That's child abuse. Are you kidding me?
Wait, Kate, did you see the meme of the woman, the vegetarian woman who wouldn't feed her baby and the baby died?
The baby died?
Yeah. Oh, the baby died. She's being charged with murder because she only gave the baby vegetables.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Who'd have thunk?
I know. See how many rabbit trails we could take. It just never ends.
It's funny. There's an individual in my life, I won't say who, but there's a person in my life who is a vegan, and they are very, very just rail thin. Just
emaciated, yeah.
I mean, that is a word to describe it. Nutritionally lacking, nutritionally deficient,
mm-hmm.
and they are adamant about being a vegan. And I'm like, dude, you have to eat a steak, man. Like, mm-hmm. eat unanimal based product to just give your body some life, and they won't do it. And I'm like, it's like, okay, I'm not saying look at me, but like, I'm over here. Healthy as a horse, right? Strong as an ox, yeah. Man. I'll run through the wall like a Kool-Aid man.
Uh-huh.
And you're over here like half a ghost.
Well, buy more protein powder. I don't know.
That's whey.
Well,
that's
product. True. That's true. Well, there is pea protein, but I agree. It's like vegetable protein, but your face. You're like, that sounds horrible. That's so funny. But it's true. I mean, again, God's design was ideal. It really was.
You got it right.
Mm-hmm.
You got it right. Well, who was I talking to? I was like a kid. And I always thought it would be cool to have like a robot hand or something like that. And doctors always like, I think I told it to a doctor. He's like, dude, look, original hardware is always better. Original hardware is always better.
Yes.
Or no, it was at a VA thing, and some dude was getting his hip replaced.
Oh.
And the doctor was like, dude, this is gonna be really hard. Like, you just can't, like, your body's not meant to have foreign stuff inside of it. Like
yeah.
that, you know?
Yeah.
Thankfully, we can handle it. And, you know, like, if I get my leg blown off or I have a hip replacement, like, I can still
Yeah, well, now you're
function.
talking to my demographic of I'm almost 50. And so a lot of conversations are like, I'm having a knee replacement. I'm having a hip replacement. And I'm like the youngest cat in my crew. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, ugh. Like, I'm just really dedicated to taking care of myself. But, you know, things do happen.
Well, I'm about to turn 26 and I got arthritis
I do eat meat.
already,
In fact, you've talked about steak so much. I'm like, okay, where's the skillet? Where is it, Cade? I'm going to need a steak after this.
I do. I'm that is my thing. That is my thing. Well, it's Dr. Sean Baker. He's a doctor and a nutritionist and stuff, and he does like the whole carnivore thing. And he lays it out. He's like, look, dude, like vegetable, like people, you can eat vegetables, but they are biologically engineered. Like they just are, like they evolve to not be eaten, right? They're.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Like a plant. Like a plant's life.
Oh, okay.
Like how does a plant defend itself? It tastes sour.
Oh, that's interesting.
It develops, you know, like defense mechanisms to not be eaten.
This is almost like the plant has a mind of its own and wants to survive.
A plant wants to survive.
That's
right?
Interesting.
So like seeds, roots, stems, and leaves are what give a plant life.
Yeah.
And most of the time, vegetables are consisting of seeds, roots, stems, and leaves. Mm-hmm. And those are the things that are going to develop toxins that are not good to eat. And so if you eat too much plants, like vegetarians, you're going to be nutrient deficient.
Because it pulls everything. Well, and now our soil, I've learned over the past, I've studied nutrition for years just for my own sake and the sake of my clients, is the soil in our country is so depleted of nutrients now. And now a lot of our farmland is being bought by Bill Gates. So I love him, like
love
hearts
him.
in your eyes right now. I'm kind of all about a garden right now. Mm-hmm. I'm all about growing a garden, and I live in a condo, so I'm going to need to move.
No, you can do it. You can get it done.
Yeah.
Now, you ready for this? Ready for the biggest circle back?
I'm ready.
Okay, so what I started talking to, one of my buddies was asking me, he was like, I think I want to join the Army. I'm like, consider your options before you pull the trigger on that. I'm not saying don't. Mm-hmm. If you want to do that, I did it. I can't say don't do it if I did it. But what a lot of people are looking for nowadays, so just as bodies get nutrient deficient, we too become emotionally nutrient deficient, like spiritually nutrient deficient, right? If you've ever, have you ever had like a super strong craving for like something salty?
Yes.
Or
every day
rich?
Of my life. I want chips every day.
Or like something iron rich, or like,
it's like your body knows what it needs.
Your body knows what it needs.
Yep.
Likewise, your body knows what it needs up here and in there. And so he was like, yeah, I really want, like the camaraderie, the adventure, I want the skill set, the discipline. And I'm like,
those are all good things.
Those are all great things. But what it sounds like is you don't want the Army. You want camaraderie,
community,
discipline,
adventure,
all those things.
So good.
So how do you fill those emotional nutrient needs without, because like, I'm not saying you won't get them out of the Army. I'm not saying you won't get them out of the military at all, because you will. But it's like the difference between eating a protein bar on the go versus sitting down and having a very, balanced, calorie-rich, nutrient-rich meal where it's like, okay, this is really satiating to all those things.
It's a great example.
And so, like, you can get all of those things outside of, that military service. Again, not saying that that's not the solution.
Sure.
But it's funny because back in the 50s and 40s, 50s, when you would go into the hospital if you were sick, they wouldn't diagnose you right away. They wouldn't immediately. So I think it was like 24 hours. They would put you on a diet of beef liver and raw milk.
Ew.
But so liver is the most nutritionally dense food on the planet.
Right.
And raw milk is it's like a superfood for your hormones and endocrine system.
Like a balancing.
And so it just levels out all your nutrients, levels out all your hormones. And then once you've got your body, adjusted, if you're still sick, then they're like, okay, now we know what the problem is, right? We know that you got XYZ illness, or we know, hey, you were just nutrient deficient.
Sure.
Your hormones were out of whack.
Oh, I have a whole talk about this because I do have so many clients who come to me with certain issues where they're down, they lack energy, whatever. And one of the very first things I do now is send them for a hormone balance to see what their hormones are, because it's like, those are things I can't do. Like, I'm going to invite the Holy Spirit. I'm going to pray with you. I'm going to talk, as a life coach is different than a counselor. You kind of, like, if somebody hasn't been to the gym and they weigh too much, they need a trainer to understand the equipment to get back in shape. It's kind of the same idea, like spiritually in shape, connected, give them the right books, but also kind of walk them through, like, again, I've had a lot of pain and it hasn't been wasted with my purpose. So walking through painful places, maybe I've been with them. But if their hormones are not balanced, or they're not eating right, or they're not going to the gym, and there's all these physical ailments, those are the first things we talk about.
Yeah. What is the difference between like a coach and a counselor? Because I feel like they're similar, the same, different?
It's like I can't speak for anyone else, but I have had counselors. I'll speak from my own experience. I have had counselors. I have done therapy. Some of it was very helpful. Some of it was not. I believe there are times when you need maybe someone that has, does brain work, like EMDR for trauma or for triggering anxiety. There are things that, having this person who isn't in your circle to talk to and walk through, and who knows, the truth and the Word of God, and is always going to kind of lead you back to truth and to wisdom, kind of like getting you out of your emotions and getting you into truth.
Okay.
Because feelings can be a mess. Feelings are stupid. And so, yes, I validate them to a point, but then it's like, you're also responsible for knowing what is right and what is wrong, and how do I help champion you in doing what is right. And kind of, I think about a boxing ring, and I think, is the fighter in the ring always going to make the right moves? No. Of course not. But if you're getting your ass kicked in life, don't you want somebody in your corner who's going to like champion you, coach you, not be somebody that maybe is in your mix, your friends, your family, somebody who's separate from the crowd, who has not just your best interests, but can give you clarity and show you blind spots.
Yeah.
Without an emotional attachment. I do get attached and I love my clients, but it's different than telling your girlfriend and 10 other people that are in your circle. Complaining about your husband is different there than coming to somebody who can walk you through it, give you wisdom, give you discernment, pray with you about it, and want you to win. Yeah. Not just, let's go have a drink. No, I'm going to try to help you win. Counseling, I believe, is more like, I guess my experience was, it helped me understand myself better, but I felt like it was a professional listener. And I think a lot of times want somebody that will listen, but go, okay, Brandie, I don't know what the Bible says about this. What does it say? And debate, and ultimately inviting the Holy Spirit to every conversation. He says, when 2 or more are gathered, I'm with you. I invite the wisdom of God. I don't believe I know all the ins and outs here. And there's five sides to this story that they're telling me. But God imparts wisdom to me, and I do have a gifting to kind of listening to him and being able to speak in a different plane, and being able to speak in kind of, honestly, if God gives me a download about someone, there's been times I've been sitting with somebody and he'll literally speak something to me and I'm like, what about this? And they're like, oh my gosh, my husband just said that. And I'm going, I didn't know that. I've only talked to you for 2 hours. That's not my knowing. I've invited the power of God, the master of all minds. Why would I want to talk to someone else but him? Like, really? And if I'm going to talk to somebody, I want them to be in touch with him.
Yeah. See, I always get like weirded out when it comes to any sort of self-help other than don't be a wuss. Like,
really? Okay, tell me why. What do you mean?
I don't. Welcome to my therapy
don't
session,
be a
guys.
wuss. I actually say that kind of a lot in a different way.
I am like, well, what's a good example? I don't know. Like, kind of like, the Boston Be a Man guy.
The who?
That guy on Instagram who's always like, if your back hurts, don't fix it. Just complain about it. Be a man.
Oh my gosh, so funny. I love it. Yeah, very manly of you.
Yeah, I'm just like,
toughen up.
Deal with it. Mm-hmm. Deal with it. Compartmentalize. Put it in a box.
Oh my gosh. This is what
don't
men
do.
And this is what I talk about. They compartmentalize.
I compartmentalize and I just don't deal with it.
But women don't. Women don't compartmentalize. And that's why I coach women.
Yeah.
Because they don't. Like, it all to them is the big picture.
Well, I kind of have to. I shouldn't say I have to, but I have been conditioned to think like that just from some of the stuff that I've done training-wise.
Sure.
And, some of the stuff that I've just gone through in the military on my mission. Like,
Kate, I think God made men that way on purpose. And I think it's because they have to, you were made to go out into the world and be a warrior and a champion and a provider. You were made to go do those things. So you have to leave your feelings, your wah-wah at home, I mean,
you gotta
really.
stay cool. You gotta stay cool under pressure.
You gotta stay cool.
No, like the other day I was not cool at all. So I had hiked a mountain and I had about 2.5 miles of desert in front of me to get back to a main road.
You're crazy.
And
you guys, it's like, how hot is it right now? 100 and what?
So I'd started early in the morning, climbed the mountain, just sent it. And I started climbing down and it started getting hot. And then once it started getting hot, I hit this desert floor and I had like 2.5 miles to get back.
Whew.
And it was just like, dude, like you got to stay cool right now up top. Otherwise you're like, I would have literally died out there.
Wow.
And so it was just like, okay, you're going to walk 10 minutes and then you're going to sit down for 10 minutes and then you're going to walk 10 minutes. Then you're going to sit down for 10 minutes and you're just going to put one foot in front of the other.
You're making me anxious.
And like my whole body was like cramping up because I had heat exhaustion and like I'm still super dehydrated.
Okay, if your parents are listening to this.
Oh no, they actually
Seriously?
FaceTimed me when I was on the mountain.
Oh my
And they're
gosh.
like, "Hey, where are you at?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm up on top of the Santan Mountain." And they're like, "Oh, see, I told you. That's where he was."
Oh my gosh.
I just killed a rattlesnake. I'm pretty sure I was being hunted by cougars.
You're starting to see things. You're getting delusional.
No, I wasn't delusional.
Okay.
I was the man up there. I was
Okay.
Jeremiah Johnson.
All right.
Like I was
See, I love that. And I'm like all about it, except did you bring a lot of water?
4 quarts. I'm also very aware of what
Okay.
my physical capabilities are in that environment. But towards the end there, it started getting hot, and I was like, whew, if I don't pace myself correctly, it's going to be very, very bad.
You just explained a lot of marriages that I coach. It's getting hot. I'm pacing myself. I'm trying to move forward, but I got to rest and relax. And this woman won't lay off. Okay, it's like, this is what happens, Cade, in life. Like where things get tough and hard, and it's not, you can't just get out. And you have to stay,
Right.
and women will be overly emotional, or they'll be rash, or they'll be mean, or they'll be, and so I kind of have to talk into that space of, you got to keep your cool, and not just keep your cool because there are things you lose your cool about, and that's okay. It's kind of like, what does God say, and is he really God in your life? And if your emotions are God, you're going to have a lot of problems. Like, they will lead you astray. If my emotions took over me every day, I'd be sitting on my couch eating Taco Bell, drinking Dr. Pepper, and my life would not look like this. Like, if I followed my feelings, I would not be married. Really? Yeah, because I've been married 20, I don't even know how long. How long, honey? I know you're out there. 24 years we've been together, 22 years married. I mean, we're happy honestly, I feel we are so happy. It's insane. It's like scary, but it was not always that way. And if I followed every whim, we would not be where we are. So it's kind of like that trek you're saying. There's times when you're like, okay, this is a hot mess right now, and I've got to discern the voice of the enemy, my own irrational, crazy voice, and God's voice, and I need to decide which one I'm going to listen to. And so I help people listen to the right voice.
How do you listen to the right voice? Like, what is the methodology in listening to the right voice on the female side? Because right now, I feel like I don't know. Like in my dating experience, there's a lot of the irrational, crazy voice that gets stirred up. And I'm like, wow, things are really going good. And then all of a sudden, never hear from them again. Or I need to work on myself or something like that. And I'm just like, that is very opposite of what I thought things were going like. So what is that good voice? You know, what does the discernment of that good voice look like and the method to that?
So I always, wherever they are in their spiritual walk, is always different. And, somebody who hasn't met Jesus, it's going to look different than someone who just met Jesus, than someone who's seasoned Christian walking with God for a very long time. This is all three different kind of conversations. But again, I always explain, I believe there's one truth and one God, and he is the mastermind who created you. He knows the inner workings of your mind and your heart better than you. He even knows the inner workings of all of your relationships, and especially marriage. I believe God really cares about marriage, and when we get married, we're inviting him in to something very sacred. And I think a lot of people get into that not knowing what they're doing and then go, oh no, now I need God's help. and that's where it's a training. It's a training of what the word would say, what's the word? Buffeting your body, kind of taking on dying to self. I guess the word dying to self is, and that doesn't sound very good to people nowadays. Mm-hmm. Everything in the world says just be happy, just follow happiness. Real relationship doesn't always look that way. Real relationship, I feel like if you think of the most, I guess, loving relationship in the world that just happens because God made it that way, would be like a mother and a child. And I think that mother will get up in the middle of the night, drive all night, throw herself in front of a bus for that child. That is love. Do you think she wants to get up in the middle of the night? No. Do you think you want a crying baby that you have to feed for throughout the day? And no, but the love surpasses your comfort. And what we've gotten away from in relationship and in marriage, and maybe even dating, is that idea of this isn't just about me, and I'm called to love you, and that's not always going to feel good. And a lot of times what people get caught up in is this whole idea that it's always going to feel good, and it's always going to feel like a movie. And I even encourage women, if you stop watching movies that are fake. I mean, I'll watch Top Gun once a year. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's a good time. But I don't sit around watching soap operas of pool boys with their shirts off that want to rub my feet. That is not reality, and it's going to make you very unsatisfied in your... Todd, is that you? That's going to make you very unsatisfied in real life. It really is, because you're consuming yourself. It's like a man consuming porn. It's going to make you dissatisfied with reality.
I have always said that. Like Nicholas Sparks and his stupid books and those stupid Notebook movies, man.
Oh, see, the woman is like waiting for you to roll up on a kayak and build her house.
What do you want?
It's true. It's not reality, but reality can even be better. I have the best friendship with my husband. We have so much fun together. We have so much in common. I mean, he has my back to the nth and I have his. This was something built, and it was built on a lot of times when we wanted to kill each other and we didn't. And we did it because we included God. We'd get away and pray and we used wisdom when it wasn't easy to. And so that's kind of the training that I do within marriage. That's kind of a whole different thing than just coaching someone who's not married. But even dating relationships. I tell women, you know what? Men were required to hunt, and don't call him first. And I'm all about chivalry and romance and all the things. That's how it should be when you're dating. Because if you don't have that to look back on as the passionate season of life, like those are the things that kind of keep you, the glue that holds you together when you're not into digging each other so much sometimes. Yeah. It's like, but you remember that time? That was awesome. We know it's in here, right? You got to have it.
Well, I've always said that there's a difference between happiness and joy. There's a big
1,000%.
Difference between happiness and joy.
That's very wise.
There's a lot of things that make me happy. A lot of things that make me happy. But there's only a few things that bring me joy, and that joy far outweighs anything that makes me happy. Now, some of those things that make me happy are kind of included, can be mixed in, right? Like my bow makes me so happy.
Right.
And I just got a new set of arrows today, and I'm just over the moon about it.
I love it.
Right? But my bow isn't going to provide the same level of joy that being able to serve somebody does.
That's good.
Like, and I've been very fortunate to have a few opportunities where I've been able to serve someone and see the whole picture, see the whole thing come to fruition. I have a conversation with a guy in Iraq leading to him getting engaged and having a super happy, Christ-centered relationship.
Wow.
And it just totally changed his life. And I'm like, holy dude, that I can't really talk about it too much because it kind of touches me in an emotional space.
Yeah.
But
that's good.
Yeah, that's the difference, right? Like, my guns make me happy.
Sure. But
my family brings me joy, right?
So good.
Being outside, or a good one, I want to run away to the mountains and just be Jeremiah Johnson
with your bow.
With my bow. And I just want to be a backcountry outfitter up in the mountains, and that's it. And I'm good. Mm-hmm. And that may even bring me levels of joy. But right now, there are challenges to that infringe upon things that make me happy, but also things that bring me joy, like liberty and freedom.
That's so good.
Those things make everything else, possible. And I have to forego things that make me happy, like being a mountain man, and just not having to deal with, Instagram and TikTok, and I don't even know what TikTok is, but I have to I'll put all that off for the right now, where I can, hey, listen, there's a problem out there and it needs to be addressed so that we can have a greater joy than just, the happy, the little 2-second dopamine rush from getting Instagram likes.
It's so good. And it's so wise I know that you're, an old and wise 26-year-old, but I think about my husband when we got married he was 26 and I was 27. And he was a hockey player and he loves people, loves sports. And early on in our marriage, when our daughter was born, he stopped playing golf. And it wasn't that he didn't love golf, and it wasn't that he didn't love his buddies. It was that there's something bigger here this is taking a lot of time away from my joy, my family, my daughters. And it's like I have to make a decision. Is it going to feel good to be on the golf course knowing that I'm not being a good father? No. This is a season in life where I hang something up, and someday I'll pick it back up again. And now we've got 2 grown daughters, and he can play golf whenever he wants. He doesn't even play at all. He loves his life without it. But so many people get so trapped in this idea of freedom that really isn't freedom. because it's ripping you off of something so invaluable that you really can't get back. And then I know people that weren't, I mean, we drove crappy cars. We lived in small apartments so that I could stay home with my baby. And we made all these decisions. And I look at people now that maybe have a lot more money, but now they're trying to repair relationships with their kids. That's something that's, so there is that saying of there's two kinds of discipline, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And I think about that a lot. I wish I thought about it more when I went, so I'd go to the gym more, like in the morning, like, okay, I know I should go, but I don't want to. But it's true. It's like, you're going to have pain either way. Choose the right pain.
Yeah. Well, and one of those definitely leads to other decisions. Like, if you make that good decision in the morning, like, oh, dude, I need to go to the gym, and then you do it, you're gonna have just an exponentially better day. I actually told my best friend, she's I don't know, she's a late riser, and she was complaining about feeling lethargic, and she's like, oh, dude, I'm just so tired all day. I'm like, wake up at 4 a.m.
Like, that's coming from the Army guy.
Dude, I don't even
wake up at 4
a.m. I don't even wake up at 4 a.m. I wake up at 5. But
boot camp style. Yeah.
No. But no, I told her, yo, wake up at 4 a.m. and like just start your day. Like, start getting after it. Start working, workout, going to walk. Like, make breakfast. Like, literally just be up and start being productive that early. Then you're going to have 10 times the day you had yesterday.
It's true.
And she was like, whatever, and then did it, and she was like, oh, dude, you're right.
Okay, It does. And I know the difference, and I still don't do it all the time, but I do know what it looks like when I get up and go work out or go take a walk, and I get up early enough before it's 1,000 degrees and get outside with God or read something good in my ears before I'm getting up and getting right to work. These are all decisions we can make for ourselves, right? But again, in relationships, when you've got a woman who is feeling bad about herself because she's not getting up, and it's affecting her day, and then it's affecting her relationship, and it's affecting how she mothers, and it's affecting her body, and it's affecting her mind. So sometimes you just need that coach to say, you know what, we're going to get on a call this morning. You're going to be taking a walk, and I'm going to be taking a walk. This doesn't have to be like Die Hard, It's like, bring your coffee. Who cares? But just to have that person, is very helpful.
I mean, I think you definitely evolve when you no longer need that person. That's the game changer right there. Is how. Well,
and I don't want to keep my clients forever. Like, it's the whole idea is getting free, breaking free from being stuck. Many times though, after the fact, I'm friends with my clients, and we still, because
it's that network, it's that support system.
Yeah, it's just, hey, I'm a call away, and I'm been kind of having a rough week. Let's just chat, and then I don't hear from them for 6 months. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's different in the Army because it's a lot less nice and a lot more profane and a lot more degradation involved. But you kind of have that. It's instead of like a, hey, we're going to do
okay, well, I'm being
better.
Nice because I'm on your podcast, but the truth is, if my clients are listening, they know I cuss at them. They know I yell at them. They know I say, I've literally told, do you want to be well? Do you want to get well? Like, a good trainer isn't going to let you just be lazy.
You got to bully them.
You do a little bit. There's times when, even Jesus in the Bible, he said to the paralytic man by the water that spun, do you want to be well? Like, you've been laying here 40 years. How bad do you want it? Pick up your mat and walk. Sometimes you have a part to play, and I help them play their part too. Like, this isn't just me going, oh, let me help. No, I'm not like an Army sergeant, but there's times I'm like, this is why you're in this place. You're wimping out, like you said.
Oh, yeah.
Stop wimping out. God has given you everything you need. Stand up.
Yeah, see, we just bully each other. It's like, hey, you're fat, man.
Guys are like that.
Hey, you're not allowed to wear a t-shirt or a combat
hilarious.
top until you.
I love that
are
about
not fat.
guys. Actually, I think it's great. I wish the world was a little more like that. Less
It
politically
used to be.
correct.
It
Less
used to be.
babying each other. Let's make fun of each other.
It's changing though. Like even like we're like me and my guys were like that, but even now you can't like. It's changing with men too. Like if you tell if one of my non-military buddies were starting to look heavy, and I was like, hey bro, you look fat. like I know 5 fat people and you're 4 of them.
Oh my gosh, you're hilarious right now. And he has a mocha latte chill in his hands.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm like, hey, you'd probably be less fat if you got that burrito out of your hand. Oh no, dude, it's a chimichanga. You are a chimichanga. Like,
yeah,
they're gonna.
Girls can't do that to each other at all.
Guys can't do that to each other either. Like normal guys anymore, they're gonna be like, oh, like you're a jerk, bro. Like, why'd you say it like that? It's like.
But you know what's amazing is if he had identity and like knew the truth, like again, I do have friends that we can tease each other to a certain extent, and you have to be. That's fun and that's normal life, and I think your people should kind of hold you accountable too if you're unhealthy.
Oh yeah. Well, this may be controversial, and
that's
I
good.
don't even think for
this
the
is the
right,
mic drop. Ready? Go.
Make bullying great again.
Oh my gosh, you're totally gonna get banned.
So we had a kid show up to the squad. We called him Butters, and because he looked like Butters from South Park. Mm-hmm. And he was just this scared private, super skinny, 18 years old, just a pipsqueak. Mm-hmm. And we started bullying the crap out of him. And he was like, I remember one day we were smoking all the new guys, just making them do push-ups and stuff. And they had their rucks over their heads, and they're like trying to push their rucks up over their heads, and he couldn't. He was done. Like
poor Butters.
He had hit like just absolute failure. And we're like, why can't you lift your ruck up, Butters? He's like, my arms are tired. And we're like, no, that's not it. Why can't you lift your ruck up, Butters? He's like, because I'm exhausted. Like my muscles are at exhaustion or at failure. And I'm like, that's not it, Butters. Why can't you lift your ruck up? He's like, because I'm weak. And we're like, because you're weak.
Oh my gosh. But see, this is like athletes. I know my husband with the athletes, he teases his buddies all the time.
Well, here's what happened to Butters. He started hitting the gym, and 3 months later, we had some weird detail. Like it was weird. It was like a weird 3 months, but he comes back 3 months later, and he went from like 140 pounds to 185 pounds.
Butters was pissed.
Butters got jacked, and he just developed this little pit bull mentality, and he was just. It was
okay,
amazing.
But does this work in the real world, Cade?
I mean, is this not the real world?
I'm saying that's like, okay, of course you're in the military or in sports and you're in a team and you're relying on each other for survival. I don't know if like that, again, you're right. There's this whole thing now around, I mean, even the way that the word bully sounds to me is like a school bully picking on someone not his size, right?
And that's the way it was when you went to high school. When I went to high school, that's what it was. It was, a kid who didn't have.
Why don't we just call you a motivator instead of a bully? Make your face. Oh my God, it's funny. Make bullying. What did you say? Make
bullying great again.
But was it ever? Well, I guess coaches used to be really tough on kids. Yeah. Like mean.
Oh, yeah.
Like if they lost a game, they were like hurting. They were going to pay for it.
They were going to say, "Hey."
And now you're not allowed to do that
because don't come to school tomorrow.
Now you're not allowed as a coach to do that because the parents will come whining and then you get kicked out.
Or like, "Hey, why isn't my kid playing in the game?" Well, your kid sucks. Your kid's garbage.
It's true. It's true.
Hey, why don't they pass my son the ball? Well, because your son can't shoot the ball. He's going to ride the wood all season because he sucks. Mm-hmm. But no one has the gumption to say that anymore. Or at least no one has the gumption to deal with the parents after they say that anymore, because everybody's a little star and everybody's a winner.
That's true. And the truth, if the coach is really wanting to help the kid and be truthful, you guys need to go do more work outside of here, right? Like it's going to help him, not hurt him in the long run. And it's true. I do think that there's been this generation of helicopter parents who are patting the walls and raising wimpy people, and then they wonder why they're wimpy. I agree with that.
Well, and it develops introspection too. So when I was on my mission, I'm doing my whole riding my bike, and I had my shirt and tie on, my little name tag, and
Did you look like Butters?
Probably. I probably look like some South Park character, like from the Book of Mormon, the musical.
Funny, right?
And I'm 18 and in Boise, Idaho, just doing. And I worked really hard, but I realized at a point that I was pretty self-gratifying about all of it. I was like, yeah, I'm the man. But what I was fortunate to have some missionaries around me to kind of give me some perspective. But ultimately, what it came down to was I guess you would call it self-bullying and the introspection, where I was like, how do I level up? And when you ask yourself...
Well, you are a lamb. I mean, your dad's no shrinking violet. I mean, your parents, come on now. Like, they've got some genes going on in there, I think, too.
Probably. Probably.
Yeah, but you started to see yourself, and...
I started to see myself, and I started to see my deficiencies, and I started to see what I needed to do to level up. And it wasn't that I was like, I need to level up because I need to level up. It was like... And it wasn't that those deficiencies were being shown to me because I was just looking really hard in a physical mirror and being like, how do I, because then you start sounding like Patrick Bateman, and you're like, you can always look younger. You can always be younger, look better, don't touch the watch.
Right.
But it really came to, you start evaluating those principles that you're, based upon. You're like, okay, I know that I lack meekness, which is
lack meekness.
That's a weird one.
Okay.
It's like, okay, I know that I'm thinking that I'm the shiz right now.
Right.
But
not the most humble guy in the room.
That's not going to make me successful. Mm-hmm. Whether that's in that spiritual arena that I was in. Whether it's the spiritual arena that everyone's playing in right now, or whether that's professionally or anything like that, like, how do you introspect and say, oh, I need to be more humble, or maybe not even humble. How do I be more meek? How do I be more loving? You kind of got to bully yourself, because those are uncomfortable things. I can look in the mirror and say, I'm fat. Mm-hmm. Time to cut out the chimichangas.
Right.
But it's a different thing to look in the mirror and say, I'm a turd.
No, yeah, like you said, it's easy for me to say, cut out the chimichangas, but maybe compassion isn't my strong suit, right?
What was that word?
I'm lacking a tad of, just a tiny bit, not feeling it. You know what? I actually feel like I lacked compassion to a certain extent until I hit a real ugly place in life, and it showed me, like, really showed me my weaknesses, and I kind of had to sit in it and go, wow, it wasn't this, but I'll give you a small example. My daughter, when she was 2 years old, my sister was watching a chow dog for her friend. My daughter was standing right by me. I'm literally right by her on the phone, right by my little girl. She's petting this chow, and it bites her right in the face. Like pop, 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 bleeding. I thought it had completely eaten her cheek off. I picked her up, I covered her face, and I went and laid her on the bed, and I was like praying, Lord, please don't let her cheek be gone. When I wiped the blood, you could just see the pops of the eye teeth. I had always judged people that their kids got bit. Always. I always thought, who are these people letting their dogs bite their kids? And I'm thinking, it humbled me, like, she was standing right under my feet and it happened. But I was very judgmental of, all I could think of was these Rottweilers attacking children and parents being like, but I'm saying those little things or big things, they happen, and you go, I need to check myself.
Yeah.
I'm not that much better than others. Things happen.
And the people that don't do that are, more or less causing the problems right now, because then it's, oh, hey, I'm not gonna self-reflect. I'm not gonna better myself. So your tax dollars are gonna pay for it. I am an ugly person on the outside and on the inside, so I must be a tranny, and you're gonna pay for it. It's crazy. It's like it's almost like they are echoing what Trump was saying about the border. He's like, we're gonna build a wall, and Mexico's going to pay for it. And they're like, no, I'm going to chop off my genitalia and you're going to pay for it.
It's true. Or I'm going to have unprotected sex even though I don't want a baby and you're going to pay for it. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Just flip that table.
Right.
Oh, how the turntables.
But that's really narcissism. There's nothing wrong with me, ever. It is all your fault. That is the grossest thing in the world to me. I have like a narcissist trigger, triggers me to death. I cannot stand it because it's.
What are you, a snowflake getting triggered now?
Narcissism is like a total trigger for me because I'm like, ooh, you're one of those people that never ever thinks you're wrong ever, which makes you wrong all the time. You're a jerk, prideful jerk,
So I'm sure you've had to coach people through overcoming a little bit of narcissism. What do you usually tell them?
Actually, I'm usually coaching the victims of narcissists.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Because narcissists don't think they need a coach.
There you go.
They don't.
So how do you help people deal with narcissists?
Oh, that's a whole nother show. That's a big thing.
You have to pay for that show.
Yeah, you got to pay for that show. Sorry.
That's just actual Brandie Barclay.
You got to go to brandiebarclay.com for that. Get a little plug there. Yeah.
Yeah, because and it's weird because the military is all out like that, where you have individuals. I'm trying to articulate this appropriately. You have individuals in a position making decisions, and that's final. And you just got to deal with it, no matter what the consequences are on you or them. And usually the consequences are more affecting you.
That sounds like a narcissist relationship.
Yeah, where it's like, hey, I'm going to volunteer for XYZ because it's going to make me look good. And my subordinates are going to be executing XYZ at their inconvenience. Right, so it's going to take them away from their families. It's going to take away from their time to just not be under stress or pressure, and it's going to take them away from their actual job. And then you just have to deal with it. And you're like, okay, well, I just did a 30-hour detail mowing lawns, and I'm not exaggerating.
Is this
either.
happening in the Army? Okay, sorry.
No. It is not.
I'm like, you guys mow lawns in the Army? Am I
got
missing
to.
the example?
Someone's got to.
Yeah, that's true, right? I didn't think of it that way.
And they don't pay anybody to do it. So.
Okay. My mouth is dropping open.
But, you get, dudes will just get lost in the sauce and stuff like that. And then you're like, dude, why does my life suck? Why are my habits horrible? Right? Why does my body hurt? Why am I so stressed out? You have this uncertainty about what's going to happen, and then all the brunt of every situation is put on you. So it's like, hey, here's a task that you don't want to do, that you don't need to do, that you shouldn't do. But if you don't do it, it's on you, not the person.
Oh man, you just described gaslighting. You just described narcissism. Basically, it's I'm going to impose my will. You're going to like it, or you're going to pay.
Yes.
And so when
what is gaslighting? What is gaslighting? I feel like
gaslighting
I've heard it for so long.
I hurt you. I hurt you.
Yeah, okay.
I do something to hurt you. You have a valid concern or thought or want to say or change it, and I say, What's your problem that would hurt you? Sounds like you're weak. Sounds like you have problems. Even though, so it twists the paradigm where this person is never the problem. The victim is always the problem.
Why is it called gaslighting?
I have no idea. I know I actually have read why, but I don't even.
Because like when my gaslight comes on, it's...
That has nothing. I don't know.
I don't feel like that at all.
No, I have no idea why it's called that. We'll look that up.
Actually, I don't know. My phone's over
there. I know. I'm like, we could look it up. But it's like, so then what happens is you stop expressing. It's what's happening to the country right now. We're all being gaslit. Okay, we're the problem.
Okay. We're
homophobic. We're racist.
Absolutely.
We are not welcoming to the rest of the world. That's why we want borders. We know the truth is we want a safe and sovereign country like all the other countries in the world. We don't want drugs pouring in. We don't want our kids being stolen. But they're spinning it to be you're racist, homophobic, because you want to build a wall. You're the bad person. When we know the truth is we need to be protected here. So we're not allowed to have a valid thought, concern, because then what they'll do, kind of like when our whole election was ripped off, we go to the Capitol and say, you've ripped off our election. We're here to say, we saw you, we're here, hear us roar. And what do? You're an insurrectionist. You're a terrorist. We're going to blockade this whole place because you're sick. That's gaslighting. It's happening to all of us right now.
I'm being gaslit.
Absolutely.
So what would you say to the 350 million Americans being gaslit right now and how to overcome that gaslighting?
What would I say?
So, I mean, the principles would be more or less the same in overcoming that gaslighting situation. We're all being gaslit right now. Those principles should kind of apply, right? What would you say to overcome that gaslight?
The truth is, how this happens is kind of like what happened with the masks, is we just try to keep the peace at first. This is how people get sucked into this. And narcissist relationships are very much like this. It's like, okay, well, that wasn't a hill to die on. Okay, that's not a hill to die on. Okay, if I say something, they're going to get mad. It's going to ruin our whole night. Okay, if I say something about this, then they're going to come after me, or they're going to hate me, or they're going to come against my kids at school, or I'm going to lose my job. So let's just keep the peace and hope it goes away. But it doesn't go away. And so as it mounts, what do? We have to at some point say, I don't think so. You are mistaking my peacefulness for weakness. The truth is I'm very peaceful, but now you're, I guess you could say, bullying me, and I'm not gonna have it. Again, Jesus, I think this is what happens in the Christian world, is we're taught turn the other cheek, forgive 70 times 7, and we just need to be nice and walk away. Well, when someone is picking a fight with you, and when someone takes a shot at you, you're allowed to defend yourself. You're allowed to stand up for what's right.
You got to take the kids and leave.
You're allowed. So a lot of times what happens with women, and you know what? I'll say both men and women, but I just coach women. But I'll say it happens to both. And what happens is they have, now this person has so much control. Just what happened with our government. They have so much control. They've taken away my bank account. They've moved me to a state where I don't have family. They wanted me to quit my job so that I could be under their thumb. I mean, they do it out of, oh, I love you, let me take care of you. Oh, I love you, you don't have to work. Oh, let's go move here because I have, it's kind of like the long game, how they can control. And what happens is this passive or loving and caring person, peaceful person, is like, how do I keep this together for the sake of all of these things? And what ends up happening is they can't without completely losing themselves, their identity, their peace, and their strength. Jesus never called us to give up our peace, our joy, and our strength. And what happens is what the enemy, the ultimate enemy, if he can steal your joy, he can steal your strength, because the joy of the Lord is our strength. And when you don't have joy, when you think of a depressed person, are they strong? Are they full of vigor and action? No, they're laying on their couch. That's what the enemy wants to do to people, and he'll use people to do it to you. And you are allowed to stand up against that as abuse. I don't care. Someone doesn't have to hit you with a bat to abuse you. It is mental game. We're being abused by this country, and it's happening to people all the time in their home. And it's like we're being conditioned to be abused. It is not okay, and it's not God's way. And someday you're going to be a father, and you're going to have children that you love. And if someone messed with their mind, you would think of it as abuse, and you would not be okay with that because you're a loving father. We have a loving father. He is not okay with his kids getting abused.
So we need to
pick up your mat and go. Start moving.
Take
action for yourself.
If you were to give them one action that they could do today, what would it be?
Who's they? Against our country or in a personal relationship?
Just in general, because we got to be a little safe on the mics. But, there's a lot of angles by which this gaslighting and abusive relationship is happening with a lot of Americans, whether that's in their personal lives or, metaphorically on a larger scale. Actually, it's not metaphorically, it's pretty literal. What is the first thing a person can do to get out of that relationship or to put an end
I'll say
in that
the truth is again, this is why I think what you're doing in podcasting and having a voice is so valuable, because when people start putting truth in their ears, it starts to drown out the lies. So turning off lies, number one, whether it be your TV, your music, all the things that are drowning out truth, get them out of your life. The other thing is start reading truth. Get in God's word. Get around people that believe like you. Like you said, we long for community and like-mindedness where we don't feel alone, because then it makes us stronger. Like if like you said, 300 million?
350, I think it's 357 million.
Okay, I thought it was more than that. But if all of those people decided in one day we're not going to be gaslit, we're not going to be abused by our government, the road to hell is gradual. We're here, right? It's like it's happening. If this next election is not saved by people being a part of these polls, watching the polls, watching these ballot boxes, this is going to take citizen work. This isn't just going to happen with one woman or one man on a stage and you're going to go and clap and go home. This is, how do I get involved? This is my country too. Right now you can go to AZ Election Protection, and you can sign up to poll watch. You can sign up to be at the polls. We have to hold the line. We. And if you're at home listening to CNN by yourself, you're not a part of the we. If you're at home, like on your phone going, I wish I could change the world, you don't feel like a we. That's what they want, divide and conquer. So we have to, that's why I think this community that has been built in my hood is so valuable, because we have a we now. And that spreads, that strength spreads. And these women start walking away from these situations. Pick up your mat and leave. Pick up from that job. You don't think God has you? Then your faith isn't in God, and without faith we can't please him. Have faith in your God that he sees you and he has you. Maybe you won't make the same money. I don't make the same money as I did 5 years ago. My life is so much richer and it's so crazy good. I think tangible money is coming because so many things are happening, but my life is so brilliant because money wasn't the God. Mm-hmm. People can say God's God all day long, but what is really God? Comfort? Money? Oh, well, I can't say anything because I might lose my job. Okay, well then, you're not one of us.
Yeah. Well, I think in addition to just having...
People are like, wait, I'm not one of you? I just felt that in my spirit. People are like, because I won't quit my job? It's like, if they're demanding you to do something that you know is against what you should do, you're hurting all of us. I'm just going to be honest. You're hurting every other person that you agree with if you're bowing to this.
Well, it's more than just... I won't say it's more than, because it's juxtaposed and equally yoked with having faith in that higher power is having faith in yourself and in your identity, in your divine identity, that you can do these things. I think that's what stops a lot of people, is they're like, oh, well, dude, what am I going to do about, I'm being gaslit by the most powerful organization in human history, with the most lethal fighting force in human history, with the most powerful weapon in human history, with economic warfare, right? They can do whatever they want. How am I going to combat that? Have an inkling of faith that you can do literally anything, right? And that starts, I talked about this with Jason Schmeck, it starts with not just yourself. You got to believe in yourself, but starting it in the home. Hey, you're a mom, dude. That is the forefront. Mm-hmm. That is like the foremost front you can possibly get on, right? You're raising that next generation that's going to shape everything. And everyone always, people always say that to moms and teachers and stuff. And it's funny how, like, if a woman has a kid and she's like, my family's at home, but I'm going to go be a teacher and teach, like, it's like, okay, you're celebrating a person leaving their family to go teach a bunch of other people's kids when their kids are just getting lost to the system. Like, how's one more important than another?
The world has told women they're not powerful, they're not strong, they're not successful unless they're out doing what a man does. And, I had seasons where I was home with my kids and season where I was working. But when you just said the faith is really a driving force behind, I think, the strength, 1,000%, because if I just had eyes for this world, I would just be conforming to it. Whereas when I think about David and Goliath, and we hear this all the time, but really, David it wasn't about his faith in himself, in his size, in even his weapon. That wasn't his faith. His faith was in his God. And it wasn't him that took down the giant. He used what was in his hands, stepped onto the battlefield, and took a shot. And you know what God did with it?
Endowed him with power.
Thank you. Endowed him with power because he had the faith in God, not himself. People say all the time, I don't have faith in myself. Good. You know what? You should. We're weak and fallible people, and we should doubt ourselves. I doubt myself all the time. I don't think it's me. I invite the power of God, like you said, this army, this warfare, the biggest army or the biggest power that this world has ever seen. No, the biggest power this world has ever seen is heaven. And when heaven is on your side, when you read the word and you see how God was always working things out for his people, he is still working them out for us. But we have to get on the battlefield, and we have to use what's in our hands. And it doesn't mean I can go lock Hillary Clinton up, but it can mean I'm going to take, like you said, my family, my friendships, my voice, my job, anything I can that he's gifted me with to use the way he wants me to. It's not going to look like everyone else. I'm not telling everyone else to quit their job and go do what I did. I'm saying he's telling you what to do. And if you have faith in him, you'll do it. And if you don't, that's your first action step.
There it is.
Boom.
That's it. So, Brandie, if people need more from you, they need to hear more. They need to hear your good word. They need to hear your life coaching and counsel. Where do they go?
Brandie Barclay, Brandie with an I-E, kind of confusing, very special, everyone, right? I-E. Barclay, Barclay. I'm on Instagram. You can message me. You could go to my website. You can email me from my website. And I do always a free consultation, see if this is your jam, and we go from there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And now you said you just finished your show on...
Yeah, so I had 2 different shows. I had a radio show on Faith Talk that was called The Power Soul Show, and I had a show on Patriot, which was She's So Right. And both of those contracts have ended, and right now we're in crunch time with Carrie Lake's campaign, so I'm going all in to help there and do my ministry because I'm not leaving that, and we'll see what else happens.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on, Brandie.
We're not going to wimp out, Cade. We're tough.
And thank you guys for listening. If you want to support the podcast, go to fearnotdoright.com. We got lots of great merch and t-shirts. When you see posts, listen to this podcast, get on there and share it with your friends. There's messages like Brandie has to share. People need to hear it. And if you think someone needs to hear it, share it with them. And thank you guys for listening.